everybody, and welcome to another episode of Stephen and Walter Live. Yep, and a lot of you I see coming into the chat room. I just saw you over on Russ's Sewing Shenanigans Day. We were there. Even Walter was there for a while. A little late, but better late than never, I guess. Okay, so who have we got? Dana. Dana's at the top of the list. Hello,
Wow.
Dana. So, Dana, I hope everything went well yesterday with the people looking at your house. Dana's moving.
Oh,
Yeah, she's got her place up for sale. Pace is here. Hi, Pace. Hi, Judy. Judy says it's a sunny day where she is at. Sue Lambert is here from Delsport, Washington. Mary says, good afternoon. It's hot in Kansas and it's just April. What are summer temperatures like in Canada?
well, today it's 14
Well,
degrees.
today isn't summer.
No,
It's still spring for us.
it's still spring.
Yeah, we got a ways to go until June
Yeah,
21st.
It's nice warm today.
Yeah, it's 13. Well,
Well,
my watch
exactly.
says 13 Celsius.
Mine says 14.
Oh, well, you're hotter over there. Yeah, right, on that side of the room. So what's that, 13, 26, 56 Fahrenheit, roughly?
No, hang on. I got my F to C. I got C to F. C.
You're a Canadian, you should know this.
Yes, 57 degrees.
I was close.
It
57.
feels warm.
I don't know, I
feels-
haven't been out.
Yeah, short sleeve weather.
Oh, shorts and sandals. Shorts and sandals. Okay, so Faith is here. Hi, Faith. And Julie is here. Hello, Julie. Diana Grant is here from Northern California. They're having a fine day as well. She's hoping ours is as good. So, yeah, it is good. Let's see here. Tasha Quilts is here. And Dubrovka is here as well. Sue Norfleet says, nice to see you again. Yeah, it seems like forever, Sue, since we saw you. A whole, 30 minutes? And Joanne is here. I was going to try and say your last name, Joanne, but I don't know if I can say it without butchering it, but it doesn't matter. Joanne is here. Alice is here. John, our East Quilting Company is here. Now, he says it's very wet in Cape Breton Island. John, for those of you that don't know, of course, is of the Art East Company. And have you been living under a rock if you don't know what the Art East Company Quilting Company is? But John will be one of my special presenters at the retreat on the 26th of April. So, you'll want to register for that. More about that in a moment. Who else is here? We've got Heather and we've got Arta from sunny San Diego. We have been to San Diego many years ago.
Yeah.
Quite like San Diego. John likes your shirt, Walter.
Thank you. I made it myself.
He made both of his shirts himself. This is my pussy shirt. If you look closely, you can see my kitties on that. Let's see. Nina is here. Nina, you were technically Nina was the first because Nina was on here at about 8 this morning. So she was reserving her spot, I guess. Parm is back from Vancouver. Here she is. Saw Parm yesterday, saw Parm today on the Pop-Up Sew Day and Russ's Shenanigans. Where is Russ?
He's probably still sewing. Who knows where he is?
No, he cut off at 3. I think he had to take Riley out for a walk.
Oh,
so,
I see. Yeah.
Maybe he's been absconded. Thanks, Sue. Sue likes the shirts. Pamela is here from sunny Minnesota. So everybody looks like the weather's good today across our countries. So that is good to know. We could use some good weather. Get us in the mood for nicer things to come, I hope. Okay, so what have we been working on? Well, yesterday I had a pop-up sew day, and I did not work on either one of these two things yesterday because I'd finished them beforehand. So you've seen this. If you saw the Idiot Quilter, you've seen it. Oh, I've got the wrong picture. Well, don't worry about it.
That's before it was
That was
quilted.
before I quilted it. Yeah, I got the wrong picture up here. Here, let's show them yours while I find the picture. Show them.
Okay, so yesterday I started working on another shirt for Stephen this time. And it sort of looks like a Van Gogh shirt. But
A Van Gogh shirt. Why?
Well, actually, the material sort of reminds me of the Starry Night, but it's actually a Timeless Treasures print.
It looks quite nice. It's in my
Yeah,
colors too. And yes, it
yeah,
is my shirt.
yeah. It's
He's
your shirt.
making it for me. He said, "Did I want a shirt?" I said, "Of course I want a shirt. I
I said
always
take a fabric
want
from
a
my
shirt."
stash, so he picked this one, so that's what I'm making. So I'm not quite done yet. I still have to hem it and put the buttons on it.
Okay, so I did find the right picture this time. So let me get it up here for you to see it. And there it is. So there's my giraffe, and I've got my niece's address so I can send it to her little girl, to Clara, my great niece, our great niece, and along with the bibs that I made as well. I'm really happy with the way it turned out. Um, did have a little bit of a problem with the cuddle, but I think I either discussed that last week on the Idiot Quilter, or I'm going to discuss it on the Idiot Quilter this week. I'm not sure which, but I'm not going to discuss it here. But anyways, and I ran out of some of the fabric, but you can't tell because I
Changed the pattern.
changed the pattern a little bit, a little bit. I didn't really change the pattern. I just changed the placement of the colors. Down here in this bottom section where you see this lighter green, that's actually supposed to be blue. This same blue. These are supposed to be the tops of the trees. The giraffe is poking his head over. And so I guess, light through the trees. Well, I ran out of this blue. And I had absolutely no more of it. And I thought I had cut enough squares. I mean, it told you in the pattern to cut 401 2.5-inch squares in this color. I thought I had enough. Guess I didn't. I was short by a few. So I had thought of putting a different color blue, but then I thought that would just look stupid. So I figured, okay, so we'll just have some lighter greens, hills behind the trees or something, whatever. Um, but I'm happy with the quilting in it. Walter made the suggestion that we do this one in it. And I'll show you what it looks like on the back on Idiot Quilter this week. And if I get, oh, no, don't want that. I want, bear with me for a second, people. I'm being challenged here. Okay, here we go. All right, so this is a little project that we're going to do part of that on So Chatty, because this is foundation paper piecing, but I didn't do it as foundation paper piecing. I did it in the hoop on the embroidery machine. And you may ask, how can that be? Well, we're going to be talking about this, and Walter's going to actually be learning how to do this on So Chatty this coming week. So stay tuned for that. So I'm very pleased with the way this table topper turned out. I like this style of table topper because it fits on our round glass coffee table in our family room perfectly with it. So yeah. So other things that I've been up to, well, yeah, yesterday on the pop-up sew day, I've been fighting with the Barnstar sampler, and it's just because there's so many pieces, and I find it boring. It'll be really nice when it's done, but you got to get it done. And yesterday I decided I was going to try a little palette cleanser. So I had a Missouri Star quilt pattern. I should have known better. Now, I know this will be sacrilege for some of you for what I'm going to say, but I don't think they write good patterns. Okay? They seem to try to be very economical in how much paper it uses up or how much space it uses up when they write it. And sometimes on some of the patterns, that makes for confusion. Now, this one I thought was very straightforward. No. And I didn't like it. I didn't like it when I got working on it. And so I thought, okay, waste all this fabric, which was Walter's fabric, and or do I stop now? And I decided, if it's not bringing you joy, there is no law that says you have to complete a project you're not liking. So I'm not going to do it. I did one of the blocks and I've decided no more with that. And I returned today during Russ's sewing shenanigans to the Barnstar sampler, and I'm going to make a concerted effort to try and really get on with that one. I'm getting close to the end, but I'm not quite there. But anyways, yeah. So let's see. Next week, before I forget to tell you, next week is Easter, and we're going to my sister's for dinner. So we're going to be starting Stephen and Walter live 1 hour earlier next Sunday. So instead of at 4 p.m. Eastern time, we will be on at 3 p.m. Eastern time, because we got to get to my sister's for dinner. Okay, and I'll probably remind you of that throughout the week on my various productions. Sewing with Stephanie and Steven on Wednesday as usual, 9 a.m. Eastern. Come join the gang for, catching up on things, conversation, enabling, all those good things that happen. Everyone's welcome. So, if you've never been to one before, this might be the time for you to try one because we don't bite. We have a good time. Link is in the show notes. All right. Spring retreat. Registration. Busy day for me tomorrow, maybe. 9 a.m. Eastern. Registration opens for my spring 2005, the Idiot Quilter Spring 2025 retreat, virtual retreat. It is a free event, but you do have to register to reserve your spot. And although it's not until April the 26th, the registration will be open for approximately 1 week. And if it fills up during that week, doesn't mean that you don't have a chance to be part of it. You can still be on the waiting list because there's always, life happens, and there's always people that need to drop out for one reason or another, and it opens up a spot. So I'll be more than happy to put anybody that's on the waiting list into those spots if that occurs. If you have not seen the video that explains all the ins and outs of the retreat, please watch it. There's a link for it in the show notes below for this and in all of my videos for next week. It just talks about, the registration procedure, who our guest speakers are. One of our guest speakers is here today in the chat, and that is John from Art East Quilt Company. So I am thrilled that John is going to be one of our speakers because I know it's going to be really interesting. And he's very, very talented. And if you've never seen an Art East quilt, you need to. All you have to do is put in Art East Quilting Quilt Company and you'll into your browser and you will find it, and they're there and they're magnificent and they're a lot of fun too. So that's going to be a great presentation. And we also have Heidi Morale, who is a longtime subscriber to this channel and a brilliant hand quilter. And she's going to talk about that and everything in her process. And we're going to have a panel discussion as well, led by me, but with John and Heidi. And we're going to be talking about the creative process as well, because I'm sure you'll be very interested to know, how do they come up with the ideas they do? How do they bring them to fruition? So that's also part of the retreat. Other things that are part of the retreat: prizes. And we have some special prizes this time around too, because one of the local quilt stores here generously donated some gift certificates and a couple of physical prizes as well. And although this is virtual, I guess, well, I'll get them shipped out to whoever the winner is, wherever you be for that when you win it. And we'll have show and share as well. So if you have a favorite creation, doesn't have to be just a quilt. It could be a garment. It could be a bag. It could be knitting. It could be crocheting. Whatever is a creative, something creative that you have done that you really would like to share, just send me one picture of it along with your name, first and last. You do not need to send an explanation of it. You don't need to tell me when you made it. You don't need to tell me who designed the pattern, anything like that, because that'll just be a waste of your time, because I'm not going to use that information. All I'm going to do is put a slideshow together with a musical soundtrack and your name above your creation, and that's what we will see. And it always seems to be a very favorite moment on all of my virtual retreats, because I get people asking for me to repeat it. during the day as well. Um, so yes, and not only do we have the retreat on the Saturday, April 26th, but on Friday night before, April 25th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, we have a cocktail party. I call it the Icebreaker Cocktail Party. And all are welcome that are signed up for the retreat. If you have a spouse in your home that you would like to bring along with you that evening, you may do so, or a friend. Um, and basically, you bring along your favorite beverage and maybe a snack. And if you've got something you'd like to show us as well, bring that along too. And we're just going to get to know some of the people that are going to be at the retreat. This is especially great for people who have never been to one of my virtual retreats before. Yeah, my idea here is to make you feel comfortable. Um, so we have a little laugh. I've got some little quick little videos I want to show you. And for those of you that have been to the cocktail parties before, all new videos I found. Yes, and they're hilarious. I even have a game. We're going to play a game as well. Sorry, no prizes. But just for the fun of it. So yeah, we usually have a good time. It runs usually a couple of hours, and we get to know everybody. That if you so desire, if you're free that night and you would like to be there. So how do you know what the links are for all these things, you may be asking? Well, a couple of things are going to happen. Next week, starting Monday, once the registration happens, do not try to register before 9 a.m. tomorrow, Monday. I will ignore your registration. Sorry. When I say 9 a.m. is when I start the registration, I mean it because I have to keep it fair. Because in past years, we have had a waiting list that, well, actually happens really quick. So I meant tomorrow's might be a very busy day for me. And I want to keep everything organized. Once I have your registration, I will, and I think I mentioned how to register, but if I forgot to, oops, there's my thumbs up. All you have to do is send me an email with your first name, your last name, and I will register you. Also, if your email address that you want to use for the retreat is different from the one you send the request from, please note that in the body of your message as well, because that is the email address I'm going to be using to update you. For example, once you're registered, I will send you a confirmation so you know you're on the list. And next week, about the middle of the week, you will receive a detailed agenda for the day of what's happening when. For example, what time are the guest speakers going to be presenting? Because, you might have something you have to do during the day, which is perfectly all right. Your spot is your spot, okay? Once you've arrived. But say you have to slip out for half an hour or something for some reason, or you're going to the bathroom. Happens. And you don't want to miss the guest speaker. Well, you will know what time they're coming on. Now, the question I always get too is, am I going to be recording and posting later the guest speakers' presentations? No. Why? Because if I was to do that, why would people want to come to the retreat if they figure they can get all that information later after the fact? Yeah, I know, I'm nasty. So no, it will not be recorded and rebroadcast. Okay, you got to be here to see it, to enjoy it. So that will come out the middle of the week after this one coming up. You'll have all that. And in that agenda, you will have the Zoom links for the Icebreaker Cocktail Party and for the retreat as well. So it'll all be there. If you have any questions, feel free to email me at any time. Not a problem. Okay, so let's see here. I think that's all I need to say about the retreat right about this point in time, and just backing up here to see if there's any questions or comments that we should deal with. Oh, there. Russ, yeah, he took Riley out for a walk. And Everybody's loving the fabric you're making my shirt from, and the giraffe. Russ says you should show us the back of the giraffe quilt so we can see the cuddle effect with quilting. Well, Russ, I'm going to do that, but that will be on the Idiot Quilter episode on Tuesday. So you have to tune in to that to see that. Jeannie's here. Hi, Jeannie. And Charlotte is here. And Dubrovka likes the bubbles for the quilting. Charlotte says, hey, Stephen and Russ, thank you both for a fun and productive weekend of Zoom sewing. Well, you are welcome, Charlotte. Mary says, I agree. Why finish something that doesn't bring joy? I bought Solaire, which was expensive, but I decided I just don't like the color, so there you are. Yeah, sometimes that happens. Sometimes these things seem like a good idea at the time, but then you sober up. Vicky's here. Hi, Vicky. Daniel's here. Just want to say thanks for the 6700 deep cleaning tutorial the other day. It will come in handy as I have the 6700. Yeah, and it's not hard to do, as you can see. Even Walter could do it, yeah. Candace is here. Hi, Candace. Daniel likes your shirt.
Thanks.
Andy's here. Hi, Andy.
Actually, the fabric I got, which I don't know what it is, but I got it from a store we went to while we were in Vancouver. And it was sort of tucked,
is that where it came from?
Tucked away in the back, and I think it's an old print.
Oh.
So
I didn't realize that came from Vancouver. I'd forgotten about that.
yeah, remember that lady we went to in the house?
Oh, that little place in there. Yeah, that's
and,
right. Yeah.
I saw it there, and I thought, okay, great. It's got rust spots or whatever on it, so you can spill coffee on it, and you won't know.
Oh, you're talking about your shirt.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the Starry Night one.
No.
There. Oh, okay. Now Dubrovka's got a question.
Well, I'm not sure if he's talking about my shirt, this shirt, or this one. Actually, all our shirts there's three of them. There's the one I'm working on right now, this one. And then there's Steve's shirt I made a while ago, and this one I made a while ago.
Oh, hello, Joanne. I don't think I said hello.
Sort of like Starry Night.
And
that one I can tell you where it is.
You're talking about my mouth you cut in.
Okay.
You're sure? Okay. Dubrovka has a question for you. Bags that Walter makes, is there a pattern to purchase?
No.
So that was easy.
I actually modified a purse pattern to make the bag.
Okay, so yeah, so no, there isn't. But basically, when you make the bags, it's pretty much a standard kind of form. Then you fancy it up with the embroidery machine and
I did,
and your little tricks that you play with.
Yeah, I put embroidery on the other side. It's a fairly basic bag.
Yeah.
Basic lined bag that I just put embroidery on it.
And Daniel says the one you are wearing looks super. Steve is good too. It's good to know that I'm good too.
Steve likes bright colors.
I do. I like bright colors. Oh, and Mary says, what do you do with your bags, Walter?
I put stuff in them.
Sarcastic.
Basically, I have a bunch of them in my sewing room. I have given a few of them away.
Yep. The bags
I made a bunch for the neighbor one day, one Christmas. So,
you know, I have seriously considered, but I'm just not sure how to work the finances of, how people in the summertime post that they're having garage sales or sidewalk sales of junk, posting a sign and going 3D prints and quilted things. But I don't know how to take money for it. I don't have a system. Like, I wonder if you can rent a system. I don't know. It's just an idea, toying with it, just to clean out things, but whatever. I would gladly send things to all of you, but I've had this discussion with you before, and it's just shipping is astronomical. I can't afford the shipping. And I've even had some people say, well, they would pay for the shipping. Yeah, it's still going to cost you an awful lot. And right now, getting things, most of you are Americans, so getting it across the border might be tricky these days. Who knows? Walter Dubrovka wants to know, do you do French seams on your bags?
No, I do not.
No, I didn't know French seams were a thing on a bag.
I have to. I haven't done a French seam in a long time. I have to look it up. No, I don't use French seams. I just use regular old seams, but that's because I don't have any seams that show on the outside. They're all hidden inside.
You mean hidden between the bag
Yeah,
and the lining?
between the bag and the lining. Yeah.
Adam sews though. He actually binds
Yeah.
his
Some people do
seams.
that. Yeah.
It actually gives it a really well. I imagine it's probably the same as a French seam in some ways, because aren't you're
Yeah, sort of.
it's
Not.
not he doesn't do it
Yeah.
like a French seam, but
No.
the same idea. It gives the bag a really nice look because I did one of his bags a
You
while
can
ago.
you can make a nice finished inside for
Yeah,
that.
especially if you're not putting in a lining.
Hmm.
If you're, I don't know if I would do it if I was going to put in a lining because what's the point? You have a lining. No one's going to see those seams.
Hong Kong seam might not be too bad either.
What's a Hong Kong seam?
It's sort of like what Adam does, only it's like it's a seam that's opened up. Like,
Yeah.
and what you do is you cover the ends with binding. The bare ends.
Yeah.
So you have a really wide seam,
Okay.
right? And then you put what do you call it?
Hmm.
Binding on the edges of the seam, on the raw edges of the seam, so they're not raw.
Oh, sounds like a lot of work.
I guess that's something that's if you don't want to line a coat or something like
Oh,
that,
okay.
you can do that.
But we're talking bags. We're not talking
Yeah.
coats. Whatever. Well, there you go. Okay, so we did have we were talking about deep cleaning Quilter 6700P. That was on, if you haven't seen it yet, that's on Fridays, So Chatty. And that machine had not been deep cleaned ever. And I was surprised at
How little
how
junk there
little,
was.
yeah, really. There was very
Because
little.
I use sometimes in a bag I use fusible fleece,
Mm.
and the race in my bobbin case usually gets bogged up with junk when I do that.
Well, there wasn't much in the bottom of it. And like I was saying to Danielle, it's very, very easy. It
Yeah,
is
it
not
was.
scary or hard at all to take apart. And yeah, we have genomes, and so most of the genomes work the same way. But really, with the exception of Bernina's, most sewing machines, it's pretty much close to the same. You just have to figure out what's holding the bottom together, and you can open it up. It's not that scary. Not that scary. And will save you some money. If you take it in and get it deep cleaned by your technician, well, I know if we took it in, it would be a minimum of about $110 to $120 at our local quilt store. And I have heard some people have told me that they have paid as much as $400 to have their machine, tuned up, which essentially was cleaning the crap out of it. So yeah, if you want to save some money, yeah, that's money you can use for fabric, Faith says, Stephen, could you make an offer if you have a garage sale? Well, the thing is, it's exchange of money. I mean, physically, money. I'm not equipped with a credit card machine because, I mean, here in Canada, most of the time we pay with plastic. And, it would have to be cash
Or
only. And then you have
electronic
that change.
transfer or something.
Yeah, electronic transfer.
I don't know
stuff
that
like
works for the Americans. So
That's the problem with it. I don't have a storefront, online storefront. If I did, it would be easier. But anyways, Gloria's here. Hi, Gloria. Daniel says, I got to get rubbing alcohol and Q-tips. I hate taking my machine in to get serviced. Again, thanks for the cleaning video. No problem. Yeah, rubbing alcohol and Q-tips are cheap. Easy. It's easy, as you could see. You saw it You saw as we were actually doing it. We didn't know what was going to happen. Apparently, we had a little bit of a comedy routine going there too. From a few comments we got from people, unintended. It was unintentional comedy.
Oh, everybody likes my shirt because it's Palm Sunday. I had no
idea.
idea.
Didn't think about that. Yeah.
I'm not Catholic, so I don't care.
We're heathens. We're heathens. Yeah. Forgot all about that. Okay, so Pop-Up Sew Day was yesterday. Had a good turnout. We had about, I think at the height of it, about 24, 26 people there. I think everybody had a good time, and that's always makes me happy when people are having a good time with that. And then right on the heels of that, we had Russ's Sewing Shenanigans today. And again, good turnout there. And yeah, next Pop-Up Sew Day, not sure. It could be a while because we have the retreat at the end of April. And then we're moving into May, and on we leave, was it May the
12th?
May the 12th, we leave for Holland. So there may not be another Pop-Up Sew Day until we get back. So that means not until the end of May. So yeah, so if you weren't there, then you better sign up for the retreat and get your fix at the retreat. And Russ is also kind of said today he's not sure when his next one's going to be because he's got some plans to do some traveling as well very soon. So yeah, there could be a dry spell, people. Well, you know, distance makes the heart grow fonder. Yeah, keep you waiting. Okay, so Walter had an in-person sew day yesterday. So how was it?
It was good. We had our regular group that we normally have, which is Brendan and Mark and Gail and myself.
Witchy Poo wasn't there?
No, and there's another lady that has come a couple of times. Her name's Sissy, but
Sissy.
I don't know. That's what I don't.
Okay, just a second before you go on. I can't resist this. All right, this person's name is Sissy, and where does Walter's in-person sewing group meet? In the local gay club. So you've got Sissy in the gay.
Nobody even remarked about that. Anyway,
well, I would have.
She's seems to sew on a budget all the time.
So on a budget,
but she's seems to be pretty talented in making that work for her, and she does garments and stuff like that. And she's kind of a nice, interesting person. And then another lady came, and she did some hand sewing. There.
Did some what?
Hand sewing.
Oh, I thought you said man sewing.
No, hand sewing.
Okay, hand sewing. Okay.
And I'd never seen her before, but she said that she heard about these meets and decided to come. So it was kind of nice to have somebody else.
Should have plugged the pop-ups.
Yeah.
For there as well. And so Walter texted me and said, do you have a picture of your quilt, the giraffe quilt? So I sent him a picture. So you were showing those.
Yeah.
So did they like it?
Yes, everybody liked it. Because they were talking about baby quilts. So. Because everybody's got grandkids.
No, I will not make them a quilt. So screw that idea. Yeah, so but no weird things happening, nothing in there. Nobody making straight jackets this time, or
no. That only ever happened once.
Oh, okay.
Somebody was making.
It's a different kind of.
Somebody was making a straight jacket and wrist restraints.
Ooh, fun! No wonder you like to go to these days. Dubrovka says, Steven, will you do videos while on your trip? We will do some kind of video, yes. I'm not sure how much video I'm actually going to take of the places we see. Actually, it probably will take more outside of Amsterdam once we go there, because pickpockets and people who want to steal your phone run rampant over there. And
well, that's in London too, apparently.
Yeah, so you got to take, well, it's anywhere, I guess.
Yeah, we just got to be careful.
You just have to be careful. You see, it's very easy in Amsterdam to get disoriented because most of the population ride a bike, to the point where they have very sophisticated bike lanes and light systems.
And parking garages.
Yeah, and you got to watch where you're walking around in there.
That is the bikes, the trams, and the cars. Watch out for.
Yeah. So, yeah, but yeah, we will be. Now, it's also going to depend on internet connection and things like that. We won't be able to use our data service that we have here.
Yes, we are. We can use it. It's just going
Well,
to
it's
cost us.
roaming, but it costs you an
Yeah.
arm and a leg. So no, I'll be tapping into the Wi-Fi system wherever we are. That,
Actually, I was planning to buy a data plan from
yeah,
Vodafone.
you
So,
said that,
yeah.
but yeah, but there will be something. Yeah, stay tuned for it. Now the schedule will not be the same as you're used to. You just have to hit that bell, as they say. Not that that ever works half the time. And so when we go, uh, if we go live, or if it's pre-recorded, but they could pop up any day. I mean, when we were in Australia, I tried to put up something every day, actually. Um, I don't know if that'll happen this time or not. It depends. It depends. We don't know. We're playing it by ear.
Yep.
Um, See, I wasn't the only one. Your enunciation's not good. Mary said, I thought he said man sewing also. Uh, Daniel says, what are you guys drinking?
I'm
Beer.
drinking, yeah, beer. I'm drinking a Sleeman Clear, which is a low carb beer.
And I
And
have Guinness.
yeah,
Yeah. And Cindy's here from Pennsylvania. Okay, so let's get more serious, shall we? Um, you know that right now here in Canada, we are in the throes of a federal election. And just like any election anywhere in the world, we're no more special than anybody else. We have our nut jobs, and they're all after each other's throat, the politicians and the whole bit. They never seem to talk about their platforms. They just spend most of their time cutting each other up. But we do have these fringe groups that have reared their ugly head lately. And this was a post from, actually, this is someone we know that posted this. And it says, beware of fake news, literally. Today, a deep fake video of Mark Carney. This is the guy that's taken over the leader of the Liberal Party, which was what our Prime Minister Trudeau. He was the head of the Liberal Party, and now he stepped down, and they have made Mark Carney the leader, and he's now running for Prime Minister with his party. So Mark Carney started making the round, showing him supposedly announcing a plan to align Canada's financial systems with China. It's completely fake. The voice, the cadence, the message, all AI generated and designed to confuse, mislead, and manipulate. And, this is what's going on with AI right now. And if you're on YouTube, and most of you are, regularly, a lot of the content on YouTube these days is actually AI generated, and sometimes it is hard to tell. But one way you can tell is look at the stock footage they use, the images and the videos. Nondescript people if you listen to the narrative that's there, it doesn't always match up with what the pictures are that you're seeing. And also listen to the narrative, the voice. The voice will speak in a very unnatural way. They're very good these days. I mean, back in the early days, voices generated by a computer sounded very robotic. Now they don't, but they're still AI generated. And there's a lot of creators out there that are doing this because they want to be monetized and they want the money, the revenue from YouTube. Now, I have heard a rumor that YouTube is aware that this is happening and they're not allowing those videos to be monetized. But they may not be monetized, but there's ads that come up in them. So YouTube is making money from that. But the point here with this is, who's giving you this information? And this piece here is pointing out that it says, and guess who's behind pushing the garbage? This garbage. Canada Proud. Fact check. Canada Proud is run by Jeff Beligal, a conservative strategist who created Ontario Proud and BC Proud. These aren't grassroots movements. They're well-funded propaganda pipelines built to smear opponents and flood your feed with rage bait and falsehoods. They're part of the same operation Poilievre's team has brought on to run digital communication, I guess. Poilievre is the opposition leader. He's the leader of the Conservative Party. I like to refer to him as Trump in training. We definitely, Walter and I, do not want him to get into power because he is not good for Canada. If they have to deep fake their way victory to victory, what does that tell you about their ideas? And then they talk about reporting disinformation and that to the powers that be. But we have and the reason I'm pointing this out is not so much for the AI, but that there are groups within Canada that basically are trying to influence our elections, and they're influencing them in a very negative way. Way back, if you remember, we had truckers in Ottawa during COVID protesting the government, wanting the government to collapse. It didn't. But there are all these truck drivers there. And this is not to say that truck drivers are evil people, because they are not. But this was a movement that was incited by people from the United States. They were instigators, getting people riled up against our government. And this is a group that exists too. And it's not the only group out there. So you see, Canada, we've been talking about Canada the last few weeks. It's not all rosy here either. We have creeps as well. And these are creeps who can really suck in people who aren't careful. You know, you always have to question what you are hearing. And it used to be, I won't believe it until I see it. That doesn't isn't true anymore, because they can manipulate the images. So yeah, you have to get your information from a variety of sources in order to make a sound judgment, I believe. You can't depend on just one source. So I thought that was very interesting, just to let you know that we have these problems here as well. But another problem we have that we heard about, and this is, in some ways, I think this is very shameful of Canadians, but on the other hand, you have to understand what this represents. Or not this one. I'll come back to, actually, I'll go to that one. I had a thing. I don't have it here. Anyways, we'll come back to this one, and I'll talk about this one now. It's here. Okay, so it was reported that this Ontario woman was arrested and jailed in the U.S. for driving with a Canadian license. Well, first you have to back up. She was speeding. She was in Georgia. And she got pulled over because she was speeding. I don't know how fast she was going, but she was speeding. The officer asked to see her license. He saw the license, saw that it was Canadian, and he said it was invalid. But it was not an invalid license. He took her off to jail. They locked her up. She wanted to make a call to the Canadian Embassy looking for help. They wouldn't let her do that. There was a lot of stuff going on, and I think this article, I'm not going to go through this whole article, but just down, she was on I-75, so main thoroughfare. Lots of Canadians travel the I-75 on their way to Florida or to the southern United States. The cop told her that no Canadian licenses are accepted. He wanted to see some other form of ID. He wanted to see her passport, a Nexus card, a birth certificate on her phone. But she said she had those things on her phone, but he wanted to see an original hard copy. She claimed that she leaves her passport in her hotel room or wherever she's staying because she doesn't want to lose it, and she has a copy of it on her phone. None of us really travel with our birth certificate. Well, actually, I do. But, you know, she had all this stuff on her phone, but that wasn't good enough for this officer. So he said she needed to go to jail, and that's where he took her. She actually took a video of her being arrested and put it out on public media as, you know, for help. And she said she never committed a crime, and this guy took her to jail.
Well, she speeded.
Well, she speeded, yeah. So they put her up on bail. She had to pay $880 to get out of jail. And then her car was impounded, so she had to pay several $100 American dollars for that. Down here it says paid $200 to remove her car from the impound. Um, Apparently, the cop was in the wrong in terms of the severity of the punishment. Yes, she broke the law. She was speeding. But it doesn't, but he was wrong. Her license was valid, and it says so in the Georgia laws, apparently, because, of course, she had lawyers from our country into all this. She did. Long story short, she got her money back and everything like that. But, and the charges got dismissed. But here's what the whole point of this that I'm bringing it up for. It's the mood right now on both sides of the borders. This cop had a thing against Canadians. I'm sorry. Yes, she broke the law. She was speeding. He went to the nth degree. He didn't need to do that. Would he have done that to an American? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know with it. But it's the tone of this. And obviously, there was a mistake made because she got all her money back on all of that after, having to bring in the legal authorities and everything for this. And apparently the cop had to apologize as well to her. So, yeah, that just kind of tells you the mood. So, our Canadian government has issued a travel warning to Canadians about going down to the States. States have put into effect that if you're going to be in the United States for more than a month, you have to register. If you're coming in by land, if you're coming by plane, you're already registered, apparently. How that's done, I don't know. Maybe through your ticket or whatever, however that works. Mm-hmm. And they may fingerprint you, and they have the right to take your phone or anything else you've got in your car and search it, go into your messages, things like that as well. If you have said something in a message that's derogatory in their estimation against the American government, they don't have to allow you into the country, and you can be detained as well. Wait. Hold up a second. The one thing that both our countries used to say when we're proud of, that we have the longest undefended border between two countries in the world. Well, that's over, isn't it? Yeah. So just another thing they've done. But wait, there's more. So apparently out in Whistler is in BC.
It's a ski resort.
A ski resort. It's very, very popular amongst Canadians and Americans to come up there and ski and, everything. Back to nature, see a bear, kind of a deal. Well, apparently there was an American tourist there. And when the Canadians that were in her vicinity found out she was American, they berated her. Said all kinds of nasty things like Yankee go home and other things like that. To the point where she was a little bit afraid.
I guess they were on a gondola together.
Yes, they were all on a gondola together, and it kind of, you're kind of in a trapped space with all these angry Canadians. Kind of scary. Okay? Do I think that was right, that they should have done that? No. However, again,
because of the climate.
It's right the climate
now,
right now.
And people are not happy, so.
Yeah, and if Americans think they can come up here and things are going to be business as usual, then you're ignorant to this. You need to understand how we feel. And I mean, if you've been watching us, we've been telling you that. Like, it's real. We are not to be dismissed. We are in a rage right now. And I'm sorry, but if all we need is somebody to come across the border and make some off-the-cuff comment about, are you excited about being the 51st state? You'll die. Those bears that you want to take pictures of, we just go sick them. And you're a 2-bite brownie for a bear. It's that easy. Yeah, it is. So what I'm saying is, not a good time to come and travel in Canada. Okay, and not a good time for Canadians to travel to the States. So you might want to rethink your plans. Now, you're going to say, oh, that's just extreme. I'm not going to do that. That's nothing. Do you want to take the chance? I've told you before, we talk softly, we carry a big stick. Don't poke the bear. Or as I just said, you may become a 2-bite brownie. Yeah. So I can tell you this. I am not going to be very friendly to Americans that come to my country during all of this. I mean, I'm not going to go out there and purposely yell insults at them or anything like that. But let's say one came up in the street in Toronto or something, or said to me, you know, how do I get to such and such? I just look at them and keep walking. If I know they're American. I'm sorry. But yeah, that's the way it's going to be here. It's not going to
And
be.
I don't know.
It's
I
already.
imagine that sort of feeling is the same pretty much in a lot of other places in the world.
In the world, and we're going to find out about that. Quite seriously, traveling to Holland and over to the UK this summer, we will be marking ourselves as Canadians. For sure. Yeah. Because the Europeans aren't like Canadians. They have no problem.
Yeah, especially Dutch people.
Oh yeah, God, the Dutch.
They will be.
Well, they hate everybody, but
they're very direct.
Yeah. So yeah, and I thought that those two things in the news sort of sum up what's going on right now, which is too bad. It's too bad. It's more than too bad. Because we never had this relationship with each other before, but now we do, thanks to one orange pumpkin.
Actually, no, that incident happened recently because she said to look at the top of the article, but
yeah,
but it was actually on our local news recently.
Yeah,
that it happened recently.
Yeah, so, but it does show you the kind of situation we're in. Just backing up here, Daniel says some of the AI is really hard to tell if it's not real or not. There are tells, but you have to look close. Yeah, it is very difficult. You're right. Karen's here. Hi, Karen. And yeah, but it was not revealed until now because they just finished the court cases against it. Yeah. So, and I think there's probably some other ones that have probably happened a little soon, or maybe not. Maybe law enforcement in the States have been told, you know, you shouldn't do this kind of a thing. I don't know. Mary says, American mood is terrible on both sides. It's scary and must. Yes, it is. There's a growing list of countries that are not allowing Americans within their borders. Yep. Yeah. And I hate to say it, but Canada could be one of those ones that'll be putting the Americans on the list too. I think it's probably easier for some of the countries in the EU who do not maybe deal as heavily in trade with the Americans as we do as Canadians. So, you know, our government would probably be loath to put out a ban on American tourists with that, but you never know. What are you looking up?
No, I was looking up that article. Was it 2018?
Well, it said on the article up here. I saw that too. Let's see.
Oh, it says posted.
Yeah, it said last updated May the 7th, 2018. But they just told us about it.
Yeah, they just, it was on the news recently.
Yeah. So you know, I'm wondering now that we have
said 7 years ago too.
Yeah, it says 7 years ago. So okay, here's an example of the media.
Yeah, because it was just on the news recently, and I looked up the article, but I didn't really notice in the article that it said 7 years ago.
No. So there you go. Yeah. Got to be careful when you're looking at things. Yeah, check the dates. Because they made it sound, it was on TV and on the news.
Mm-hmm.
So they made the whole thing sound like it just happened. Mind you, 2018
was when Trump was
Trump was still in power then. but not in the situation we're in now.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, it's going to get nasty. Well, it's already getting nasty, which is, again, too bad. Like, it is too bad with that we're having this kind of thing. Okay, so let's talk about Canadian culture, because we have one. And we said last week, we don't, how do you, or week before, how do you distinguish a Canadian from America? What makes us unique? Well, we're trying to point out what makes us unique. But one of the things that makes us different from other countries in the world, including the United States, is our arts, our culture.
Was that joke? What's the difference between a canoe and a Canadian?
Canoe's tip.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's get this up here. So going to the same Canadian or the government site that has this, I don't know how many Americans can identify the style of painting in this, but this is a very, very typical Canadian style of painting. It's a group of 7. The group of 7 were male artists who came together in the very early part of the 20th century, and they created a group of 7 who who were famous for their painting. And
they were a famous group of 7.
Famous group of 7. And this is the style. Even though there's different painters, this is the style. And so you always know, and it says here, this says Algoma Country by Lorne Harris, perhaps the most famous of the group of 7. And yeah, he was one of the biggies in the group. By the way, just as an aside, no women were allowed. In fact, a lot of people think, if you're familiar with this name, Emily Carr, she was a great painter in the same time period, came from British Columbia. And a lot of people, when they say, well, name who were in the group of 7, and most people will say Emily Carr. She should have been in the group of 7, but she wasn't. It was a boys' club. They wouldn't let her in, but she was just as good, in some cases better, than any of these ones in the group of 7. So it's a very sexist group. So what is Canadian art? This is a defining style of Canadian visual art is probably the landscape. Of course, we have a lot of it. Canada's exotic natural beauty was tremendously alluring to European artists in the 19th century, and the earliest, most famous works of Canadian art are heavily romanticized depictions of lush Eastern Canadian landscapes painted by European immigrants. Well, this was a problem, because Canada, when they were trying to get the country more settled, would actually put on brochures and that pictures of these artworks. And people thought, oh, look, it's so serene, it's so beautiful. You don't really see a bear eating anybody in these pictures. And so people came here thinking that there was a name for it, and I can't remember what they said. It was the something wilderness, the beauty, like it was paradise kind of a thing. And they got here and figured out, oh my God, we'll freeze to death in the winter, and we're going to be eaten alive by bugs and animals in the summer. Not a nice place to live in with it all. But these painters presented a much more stylized image of Canada. Robert Bateman, they're showing here, was not a group of 7. He was a modern painter. His pictures are very, very famous in Canada. He did a lot of wildlife. I have a Robert Bateman copy sitting right here in my room as well, of a wolf. And they almost look like they're photographs, but they're not. They're paintings. But he's very, very famous too. Now, another one who was not a member of the group of 7 was Tom Thomson. And I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but there's a whole mystery around Tom Thomson. He was a naturalist. He was a guy like going out in the woods and camping out there and away from civilization. And he spent a lot of time in Algonquin Park. Algonquin Park is part of the more northern part of Ontario. It's a vast wilderness that is now a conservation area. It's protected. And nobody knows what happened to Tom Thompson. He went there to paint and whatnot, and he was a great canoeist. And they think he may have drowned, but they don't understand why he drowned, because he was an experienced woodsman, an experienced canoeist, the whole bit. And so the myth has always been that somebody killed him and disposed of the body, fed it to a bear. I don't know how you get rid of bodies up north. That would seem logical, though. Feed it to a bear, you know. So that's one of the legends in that. But he was not a member of the group of seven, but his paintings are still very highly sellable, investments, things like that in them. So we've had lots. We have ones from all across Canada. There just isn't any province that doesn't have great artists, and we have lots of art galleries depicting these prints and everything else that are there. Here's some more examples. That's a Tom Thompson. That's probably his most famous painting. MacDonald, Lauren Harris. He's maybe the most famous of all the group of seven. Emily Carr, who was not a member. She liked to do a lot of things that had an Indigenous theme. A lot of totem poles out in the BC area, and she used to go out into the wilderness where these totem poles were, and she would paint them. Like, not paint the totem poles, put them in her paintings and things like that. So yeah, now one they're not showing here, but we have a copy of one of his paintings that I bought at a charity auction by Carmichael. Mm-hmm. And I really like his stuff too. Now, let's talk about our literature. Okay. I'm sure most people know Anne of Green Gables, the books. If you're not familiar with the books, you may have seen the television show. That was very popular. It was a Canadian television show series for a while. But yeah, when people think of Canadian literature, the first thing they think of is the author of Anne of Green Gables, Lucy Maud Montgomery. She's probably our first major important Canadian author, but we have many, many other ones. For example, we have the Margarets, Margaret Lawrence and Margaret Atwood. Well, Margaret Lawrence, you may not be as familiar with. I studied Margaret Lawrence's books when I was in university, and I've absolutely read almost everything she ever wrote. I loved Margaret Lawrence. Margaret Atwood, well, she's probably most famous right now for the television series Handmaid's Tale. She wrote that book in the 1980s, and the thing is, it's a very scary book, very prophetic, because of what it talks about and how things... There's a lot of parallels between what happens in the book and what's happening right now in the United States. Of course, the television series has gone beyond her book, and they've created more to the story. But if you've never read it, you should read it. Robertson Davies, I studied him in university, and Alice Munro, both of them very famous writers. And then we have Douglas Copeland, and we have Michael Ondaatje. Both of them, too, were ones that I studied as well. Canadian literature is not for everybody. A lot of the Canadian literature that we've mentioned right here now, some people might think it's boring, because Canadian literature is not a lot of action. It's a lot of mental action, a lot of psychological drama, as opposed to, shoot 'em up books. So if you're interested in, that kind of thing, then you probably wouldn't like Canadian literature for the most part. That's not to say we don't have it. We do. We have the shoot 'em ups. We have science fiction and things like that as well. An author that I've been reading the last couple of years right now, I've read all of her books. I've read all 16, and she's got a new one coming out in the fall that I can't wait for, is Louise Penny. And they did I don't know if they're going to do another one or not, but they did a series on, I think it was on Netflix.
No, I think it was on Prime.
Or was it Prime?
I'm not sure now. So,
but she has a detective character, and there is murder in it and things like that. So it's a mystery in it. But the characters she creates are what make her books, I think, more interesting because of their interrelationships. And she gets a little dark. The first book was kind of, okay, that's a nice story. Now that I've read 16 of them, they've really gone a little bit on the dark side.
Do you recall the name of the television show?
It was
Lonely Pines?
No, Three Pines. 2 Pines? 3 Pines. I think it's 3 Pines. Is what they called it. Yeah, there it is. 3 Pines. Good series though.
Yeah, Prime.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that was on Prime. I don't know if you can still see it on Prime or not.
3 Pines.
Yeah, so 3 Pines is what it's called. So you might want to check it out. It's good. Canadian nonfiction. Well, yes, we have lots of nonfiction, but one person who really about media was Marshall McLuhan. Marshall McLuhan is the guy who coined the phrase, "The message is in the media," or is it the medium is in the message? I should know. Anyways, he was very famous in the 1960s, 1970s, early 70s, because he basically talked about you can't trust the media. And he also coined the phrase the global village. Like, even before there really was an internet presence, he was already talking about how the world had become smaller because of the use of media. And he started, actually, because of him, he was a professor at the University of Toronto. The universities across Canada always have now, and in high schools, media studies courses because of his influence in his writings as well. Northrop Frye, very famous literary critic. Not for the average reader. Okay, Northrop Frye is difficult, very difficult, because there's a lot of philosophy, a lot of analysis, and that kind of thing. Definitely at the university level, kind of a deal. And we have lots of other famous journalists and writers. And some of them have won Nobel Prizes as well. Canadian theater. Okay, in Toronto, you can catch Broadway productions because it's Toronto and it makes money. So we have that, but we have a lot of smaller theaters across the country that do very, very well. And we do teach in our schools. We have theater arts in our school, drama as well, the kind you teach, not the kind you live in the schools. And I mean, I was a drama teacher as well. So yeah, we have a lot of really good things. And in fact, Walter was getting me kind of excited about the Broadway show. Many Broadway shows come to Toronto, to Canada, usually after they've done a fair lengthy run in New York, of course. But there's one coming. We thought it was going to be this summer, but it looks like it's not going to be for a year, called & Juliet, which is basically about what would happen if Juliet hadn't died in Romeo and Juliet, in Shakespeare's play. And it's supposed to be a comedy, and it's supposed to use music from the 70s and the 80s or 90s in it as well. Sounds quite good. But we do have theater. And I mean, I'm sure people think it's obvious that we have art, and we have literature, and we have theater. But you want to know something? We have people who come across the border who think we don't know anything about this kind of stuff. Y'all got to go to the big damn city, don't, to see the Big Apple, to see a play. You know, no, we have really good ones here. Okay, so just see what else is being said. Yeah, let's see. Oh, Doug is here. Hi, Doug. It happened in 2018. There's a YouTube video about it. Yeah, we know that, Doug. You're late to the party here. We already discovered that. It still pertains. Karen says, always good to critically look at things, but I think it's happening now too. Yeah, it is happening now. You don't have to think about it. It is happening. Andy says, our economic and international relationships will never be the same. No, they won't be. And Mark Carney said it best. that it's never going to be the same at all. We feel betrayed. We do. You know, you were good friends. And then you did this. So there you go. I mean, you can argue who did it, but still you're guilty by association. Doug says you might be thinking of another woman detained by ICE in San Diego. Nope, I'm not. That's the one I'm thinking of. But I guess there's been another one too. So yeah. Ruth says my favorite artist from Canada is Joni Mitchell, music and paintings. Oh yes, we haven't even got into music yet. We have a lot. And Doug says very sad about Thompson. He is Canadian Van Gogh. Yep. And Mary, she's read some of Louise Penny's books as well. And Jeannie says Louise Penny canceled her U.S. tour because of the tensions between our countries. Yep, see? There you go. And you know that hadn't heard of that until you just mentioned it now, Jeannie, but good for Louise Penny. Very good for her. Yeah, Mary says sad, but she doesn't blame her. No, not at all. It's nice to see that the Canadian artistic community, the literary community, is taking a stand as well. Okay, so pop culture. So, leisure time in Canada. While Canadians spend a lot of time playing sports and having adventures in the great outdoors, they also spend a lot of time inside sitting in front of glowing screens. Okay, this whole thing about Canada and sports, what's the sports that comes to mind? Hockey. All Canadians play hockey. Hello, do you play hockey?
No, never did.
No, I don't play hockey either. My dad put me in hockey when I was about 9 years old, and, well, I couldn't skate.
I asked to go into hockey at one point, and my parents said it's too expensive.
Yeah. I mean, here's something that is different between our two countries. Americans put a great deal of emphasis upon the sporting world. In Canada, we don't as much.
But I think there is quite a bit of
But there's still a lot that happens here. But, you know, I hear people talking about that they've got their child or their grandchild or on this team, this A team in the States, or this one. They've got a scholarship to this university and the whole bit. You don't hear that kind of talk as much here in Canada with it. I'm not saying that that's necessarily a bad thing, but, you know, it's not as big. But a lot of people associate hockey. We're all about hockey.
And lacrosse.
Yeah. Now, actually, now here's something. Here's a quiz. What is the national game of Canada?
Lacrosse.
Yep. It's lacrosse. A lot of people would have said hockey. It's not. It's lacrosse. But hockey gets the television coverage. Lacrosse doesn't. And you don't hear about someone in playing lacrosse and making millions of dollars on a contract like you do with hockey players. Mm-hmm. But lacrosse actually comes from the indigenous people. So yeah, if you don't know what lacrosse is, it's kind of a hook stick with a net in it, and you throw a ball, a really hard ball. And that's something I never played in my life, because you get beamed by one of those balls, they could kill you. Yeah. Okay, so then they talk about television. All right, let's talk about Canadian TV, shall we? It sucks. Actually,
except for Schitt's Creek.
Yeah, Schitt's Creek. Yeah, I mean,
Trailer Park Boys.
Yeah. Well, was that ours?
Yes.
Oh, that was a piece of crap. But yeah, but a lot of
people. For some reason, people like it.
Yeah, I know. We as Canadians make fun of the CBC, the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. That's the one that does all Canadian programming primarily. And their government support it. And for years it was like, oh God, if it's Canadian, don't bother with it. That has changed over the last few years. They've had some good stuff.
Comedy shows and stuff.
Yeah. It's getting better. But we're so much influenced by television productions that come out of the States, because usually those networks, those major networks, have a budget that they can afford to, put into it. The CBC, not so much. When we were kids growing up, we couldn't get American channels. So you were forced to watch what was ever on Canadian TV, and it wasn't exciting. I mean, The Friendly Giant, a stuffed giraffe and a rooster, and some guy dressed up like he was on the bag of a package of bird's eye peas or whatever.
And Chez Hélène.
And Chez Hélène, for those who want to learn French, with Susie Mouse.
Yeah.
Ah, Susie, ooh, no, Mimi, don't. That's how much French I learned from Susie the Mouse. None. Yeah. But we've had a few shows that have been very popular over the years, and I think we're getting better. With that kind of thing. So we have our stars. Of course, everybody knows Jeopardy, and Alex Trebek, who was host of Jeopardy. Does it tell us there?
Yeah, it was hosted Jeopardy
in 1984 until he 2020. So wow, like almost 40 or over 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, over 40, almost 50 years. Mm-hmm. Alex Trebek on Jeopardy, but a lot of people probably didn't realize he was actually Canadian. And then, of course, we had Christopher Plummer. Well, he's famous for lots of things, but I'm sure everybody has seen The Sound of Music. Christopher Plummer was the captain in The Sound of Music as well. So I don't know if you knew that was done by a Canadian. And other ones. William Shatner. Okay? Star Trek. Dan Aykroyd. Michael J. Fox, Jim Carrey, Mike Myers, Pamela Anderson Lee, Samantha Bee. I don't know who Samantha Bee is. Rachel McAdams, kind of heard of her. Ryan Gosling, Seth Rogen, Elliot Page, who is no longer Elliot Page.
No, she is Ellen.
Oh wait, she was
Ellen Page.
She was Ellen Page. That's right. She's
is Elliot Page.
Yes, he is. He is transgender. So I don't know how many of these names pop out to you or not, but you've probably seen most of them at one time or another. We did have comedy series, The Kids in the Hall, which were hilarious, and several of those actors from Kids in the Hall have gone on to other major American productions, as well, and they've all been on like Saturday Night Live and stuff like that. Just seeing here, Andy says, about 30 years ago, I went to Toronto, had to go to the fabulous Natural History Museum.
You should probably talk about Royal Ontario.
Oh, you mean the ROM, Royal Ontario Museum. Yeah, they have a natural history part, because we don't actually have a separate one. I'm pretty sure. No, we don't have a separate one. No. I love the ROM. The ROM is great. Ruth says, read an article today about the small U.S. towns along the western U.S.-Canada border, Washington and Oregon, who are really hurting because Canadians are not coming, spending money. Who did you vote for? I guess that's a rhetorical question. Yeah. Yeah, I saw those reports too, because Canadians aren't going down to the States to, and even in Niagara Falls right now, and other places like border towns really close. Canadians were used to just hopping over the border to pick up cheaper groceries and gas and stuff like that.
Actually, your groceries are probably not cheap.
Well, no, but I'm talking about over years. Like right now, no. But, but they're not doing that now, and that's hurting the economies of some of those border towns too. But yeah, as Ruth says, who'd you vote for? Yeah. Andy says, I saw a documentary about an Indigenous man who makes handmade lacrosse sticks. By the way, my favorite pianist of all time, Glenn Gould. Oh, I forgot about Glenn Gould. Yeah, of course. He was world famous, and many of our entertainers are. Our television and radio stations are governed by something from the government called the CRTC, which in some cases has been a real thorn in the side of anybody who wants to create an original Canadian production, because it has to be approved by the CRTC, and they're infamous for being very, very...
Well, not only that, we have a certain amount of Canadian content. Like
Yes.
for if you saw, like for instance, Netflix. Our Netflix doesn't have as many American shows on it because there's a quota of how much Canadian content has to be on streaming services.
So that's what limits some of what we can see. So, I mean, no Canadian would only subscribe to CBC unless they were dead or about trying to commit suicide, because that would kill you. We do have our fair share, though, of shows, too, that are spin-offs from American ones, like Canadian Idol, Canada's Got Talent, you know, those kind of franchises that are out there. They definitely are things that have come to Canada that are popular. Then they've got some other ones here. Now, some of these ones, Orphan Black was a really good show. You never saw it, did you?
No.
No, it was really good. Corner Gas, I never watched. It's a comedy. It's one of those Canadian comedy shows.
I tried watching it a few times.
Yeah, couldn't
Trailer Park Boys, I never got into. I couldn't watch.
The Tudors were very good. That was very good. Historical. Ed, Eddie, and Eddie. I don't know what that one is. Never heard of it. Paw Patrol, I think, is a very popular kids show. Never watched it. And Degrassi was very popular too. It was kind of a teen drama thing. I never watched it either. And they've redone it several times as well. Canadian movies? Yeah, we have lots of Canadian movies. Again, when we were younger, we had the same attitude towards Canadian movies. In fact, sometimes when we are looking through Netflix and Prime and that, we go, oh, it's Canadian.
Porky's.
Okay, Porky's. Yeah, there's a good one. But we've had some good ones, and there's actually, it's getting better, I think, with it. I mean, Men with Brooms. Did we ever see that? I don't.
Yeah, I think we did.
Did we see that? I don't remember if it was funny or not. Porky's, yeah. Resident Evil. Oh, I didn't realize that was Canadian.
Yeah.
Resident Evil Afterlife. Yeah.
A lot of films get, a lot of Hollywood films and stuff like that, or film productions are filmed in Toronto.
And some of the big directors, Norman Jewison, David Cronenberg, James Cameron, they're all Canadian.
Actually, and there's a famous landmark in our hometown here that they film a lot of productions at. So a lot of times we'll be watching a movie and all of a sudden realize, hey, I know that place.
Yeah, and they come here. They call it Hollywood North, actually. Yeah. A lot of American production companies for major television shows and American movies and that come up to Toronto. They go up to Vancouver and other parts and do a lot of their filming because it's cheaper, apparently, for one thing. And, well, if you want something that looks like the bloody wilderness.
and the Canadian government gives them tax breaks and stuff like that to film their stuff here.
That'll be interesting. I wonder how how all of this situation now is going to affect that industry.
Yeah.
Don't know. I guess time will tell. Like in here, they give you a list of some movies that have been filmed in Canada, like Rambo, American Psycho, Brokeback Mountain, Fantastic Four, Twilight, Deadpool, but there's tons of other ones.
I noticed that one of the Sonic movies we watched recently was filmed here. So. Yeah.
There's a little town just north of us, not far, called Port Perry. A lot of film companies go there to...
Yeah, the Reacher series are all filmed in Canada, and the Handmaid's Tale is all filmed in Canada. Yeah.
So it's kind of fun when it's, when we recognize the area that they're filming in. Now, we do have a Walk of Fame in Toronto. I think they've also got one out in Vancouver and that. And basically they put all of our, I don't know, celebrities. I guess they'd be celebrities in the arts. It's not just for films. It's for a lot of different things in the pop culture kind of realm of things. Music. Yes, we have lots of music. So, of course, we have Drake and we had Justin Bieber, but we don't want him. Send him back. We had Leonard Cohen,
I
who
don't see Gordon Lightfoot on there.
they didn't put Gordon Lightfoot on there. Well, he's very famous. Shania Twain, Paul Anka. That's one that a lot of people probably thought was more American. Neil Young, Celine Dion. Everybody knows Celine Dion. Sarah McLachlan, Alanis Morissette, Michael Bublé,
Feist.
Nelly Furtado. Does she still do anything these days?
I don't know.
Don't hear much about her. Deadmau5 is also here. Avril Lavigne, yes. And Drake and Justin Bieber. We don't want to talk about Justin Bieber. He's an insult to Canada. We do have a music award. That's the equivalent to the Emmys.
Grammys.
Or Grammys, sorry, the Grammys. That's the Junos. And you've probably heard of some of the iconic bands like the Guess Who, Rush, Tragically Hip, the Bare Naked Ladies, Nickelback, the Arcade Fire. And we even go into as far as graphic novels and video game industry. Video game industry is actually very big in Canada as well. I don't know any of these titles because I don't play video games. But yeah, we do have a very rich culture. We are a literate people. Okay?
Illiterate or illiterate?
No, illiterate, not illiterate. And part of that, all of this comes from our education system, which we've already talked about. We're very well educated as Canadians in this country. So, yeah. And you can't have culture if you don't have education. So, yeah. So what's everybody saying here? Andy says, I saw a documentary about... No, I read that one already. And Jeannie says, aren't the Hallmark movies filmed in Canada?
No, I don't think
I think they're filmed in Dahlonega.
Yeah.
Because we saw it. Yeah, down there in Georgia. At least that's
there
what
might be
told.
a few
Maybe
filmed
a few
in
of them.
camera, but I don't know of anything in particular. So
Yeah. But there's lots of things here. But here's the bottom line about all of this kind of stuff. We shared it with Americans. And Americans shared their creative talents with us. To the point where it is sometimes very difficult for us to say, is that one a Canadian, that singer, that rock group, that author, or are they American? And vice versa, like across the border. Because like our economies, our cultures do blur. We're still different, but we borrow from each other, which makes it a lot more choice when you want to watch a movie or a television series or whatever. Well, is that going to continue? I don't know. That's a big industry on, all fronts. That all makes money. So I don't know. And as far as books are concerned, they were interviewing on the news about a week or so ago, bookstores in Toronto, like independent bookstores. And they were saying with these tariffs, that was going to affect them too. And it was going to put the price of books up even more than they are now. And in Canada, when you buy a book or a magazine, you look on the back to see the price, you see two prices, or you used to. It used to say what the price was in the States, what the price was in Canada. Of course, the Canadian price was always higher. But now they're printing the magazines and the books without that information because it's a deterrent. Now, they started doing that before all of this shit started to happen around here. But because, our dollar next to the American dollar was less, that made those print material more expensive. So, yeah. Personally, I don't read books. I read electronic books, which is kind of ironic because I love books. I love the feel of a book. I used to have a lot of books. I got rid of a lot of my books and I went totally. If it's not on an e-reader, I'm not picking it up because I like the convenience of my e-reader. Also, you can adjust the lighting on it and the size of the font. And as you get older, it's, oh, look, this book is 3 million pages long. Why? Because there's one letter on each page. That kind of eyesight. So anyways, next week, what we're going to talk about. Oh, Carol says lots of Hallmark actors are Canadians. Okay. Oh, Andy says, yes, this is important, Andy. I forgot all about this. Isn't there an international known Stratford Festival? There is. And there has been for over 50 years in a town east of us called Stratford. And they have, every year they do it's a Shakespearean festival. So I'm trying to get out of my mind. We've been many times for that. And they used to be strictly just Shakespeare's plays, and they still are, like probably 75% of their productions are Shakespearean, but they bring in a lot of other things as well. Other Canadian productions from Canadian producers, directors, actors, writers for that. And it's a big thing every year. And right now I think it's on right now, or very shortly it will have its opening again with that. But we also have another type of festival. It's Shaw, Bernard Shaw. And that's in Niagara-on-the-Lake. And that's very popular as well every year. So we do have very highbrow theater in Canada. That is world famous. The Shakespearean Festival in Stratford is world famous. And they have actors.
And of course, okay, go ahead.
I was going to say, and many of the actors in those productions are Canadian actors. Now, what are you going to say?
We also host an international film festival.
Oh, yes, we have the International Film Festival that brings up all the stars, TIFF, the Toronto International Film Festival. Every year, that brings all kinds of American actors up here, and their films are being premiered and documentaries and things like that. It's pretty much on the same level as the festivals in Cannes, as that kind of thing. It's world renowned. So yeah, there's no flies on us, people, when it comes to culture. Mm-hmm. We're so cultured. We know which fork to use first. Yep, we have etiquette. So, let's just see here. Oh, Cheryl's here. Hi, Cheryl. She loves Stratford. Yeah, I do too. Oh, and Andy says, I got asked, what's your favorite Shakespeare play? King Lear. Yep, I love King Lear. What's there not to like about King Lear? About a crazy guy in power who has bitchy daughters, and he goes nuts and strips off all his clothes in the middle of a storm and howlers at everybody, and he's losing it. And his daughter that he's abused the most in the family relationship comes back and saves him, just in time for him to drop dead, and she drops dead too. That's the thing about Shakespearean tragedies. You can always tell a Shakespearean tragedy and how good it is by the number of bodies that litter the stage by the end of it. Yeah. And you know what the equivalent is in the comedies? How many marriages happen at the end of the comedy? That's a Shakespearean formula. I should know. I taught it. Yeah, that's why I became an English teacher, one of the reasons. Okay, so next week, what are we going to talk about? Well, next week, we're going to talk about symbols. What things represent us that we put a lot of faith in? And that's not just the maple leaf. We have lots of symbols in this country that mean quite a bit to all Canadians. And some of them, as Americans, you're probably not aware of at all. And there's kind of our inside joke on you when we say these things about them and what they mean. So that's what we're going to be doing next week. All right, so just before we go, reminders. Tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern Time, I'm accepting registrations for the retreat. Okay, not before 9 a.m., 9 a.m. and beyond. Okay. Sewing with Stephanie and Stephen on Wednesdays, 9 a.m. start time, but you can come and go as you please. We will have my vlog on Monday. We will have the Idiot Quilter on Tuesday. We will have So Chatty, where we're going to be talking about foundation paper piecing using your embroidery machine. And then we have Stephen and Walter live again next Sunday, but 1 hour earlier because it's Easter. And we're going to dinner at my sister's. So it'll be at 3 o'clock instead of 4 o'clock. Okay. thanks everybody for joining us today on our little series that we've been doing for a while. And one thing I'd like to keep in mind, we have to keep in perspective who's doing what to whom. And yes, right now we as Canadians are angry at America as a whole, but we realize that for the most part, it's not the average Joe on the street that's doing things. And so when Canadians act out on American tourists, that's not the way to do things, I don't think. I don't agree with that. But it is our job as Canadians to make sure that Americans understand the effect it is having on us. Because I think that's something that a lot of Americans don't hear about or don't understand or get. So, but we don't have to kill each other over this. There's only one person we need to hold responsible. Well, he and his cronies. But we know who that is, don't we? Okay, everybody. Have a good week. Thanks for joining us. Any parting words of wisdom from you, Walter?
No.
That's what I figured with it. So just go away.
Just go away.
Yeah, just go away. Okay, we'll see you next week. Bye. Everybody.